Hello everyone, today I'd like to talk to you about this Hedera. A few years ago I started this project. No, 1 year ago I started this project, and a friend of mine asked why I buried a rhino in a pot, which was a excellent question. Well, this is again a fusion bonsai, and because it is very difficult to make Hedera thicken and get him to have a trunk, I thought this was a nice idea. So let's get this out of its spot and look at what it became in the past year. Okay, so this fusion bonsai was one I used with the fusion plate, meaning on this piece of wood there is a piece of plastic screwed with holes in, and then I stick the cuttings in it. Let's clean this a little up. There are lots of roots already here, so it's maybe a good time to repot. I see there are some holes here, meaning that some of the cuttings died off, but that's why you should keep an eye on it. You can see the piece of plastic here. Here is a little hole. I'll take one of the long shoots and put it back in to close the gap. So first I want to get rid of the old soil. And I'll get back to you when it's done and the roots have been washed out. Okay, a few of the cuttings didn't make it. You can see it because the hole is empty now, and they have to be replaced. Now the other interesting part is that lots of the cuttings have rooted well, and the roots are also emerging from the bottom of the plate. So once all these holes will be filled with healthy rooted cuttings, we will start to tangle the trunks to the wood. But this is something we will have to wait a few months before we can do that. So I'm going to take some cuttings and put them in the holes that are not filled yet. So I got the cuttings and I'm going to replace the pieces that didn't make it. If you do a project like this, it's important to use cuttings or seedlings and have some spare ones, because it's unlikely they will all root or survive. All the dead cuttings have been replaced now, and it is time to put the tree back in a pot. I will use a fairly deep pot, and I will come back to you when it's done. Okay, our little Hedera fusion bonsai project, whatever thing, is now back in its pot, and the only thing we have to do is to wait that all the cuttings root well, and then later on we'll talk about the fusion of all these trunks, and this will be of course the most interesting part. So thank you for watching, and see you next time. Hello everyone and welcome on today's video, which already started some time ago because I forgot to push the button and I don't have the first part of the work I did today. Now this is the ivy. So what did I do? I cleaned up the soil, and I found the little piece of plastic back, and now I am removing all the leaves up until 20-25 centimeters in order to have a clear view on the wiring I intend to do. So well, basically did not miss a lot. I'm just going to continue getting all the leaves off. So just to show what I did so far, you see the plastic is here, and some of the roots are already above it, some are really high above it, and the roots that are too high I'm not going to keep, so I cut them away, and when I put the tree back in the ground I will try this time to avoid having the soil up to here or something, you know, so that the only roots I keep are the ones that are really quite low, because I need them to come out from the same height. The other thing I finished now is getting the leaves off. This is the trunk where I'm going to put the cuttings, because it's not really trees around. That's a twin trunk something, you see. So up to this point I got rid of all the leaves. Of course there are a few remaining, which is not really a problem. Now I don't think that this kind of ivy needs any leaves to grow well, but at the upper parts I think I can leave them on, just to give these cuttings a little more vigor. Now I'm going to put the tree in soil. I'm not going to touch anything of these rooted parts because I want every cutting to remain healthy. And then I'm going to start applying the wire around the cuttings and pull them or push them in the form that I need them. So I'll be right back. So I'm going to fix the tree in this spot, and I'm going to fix it with a little soil. And I'm going to stay below the plastic fusion plate, like I like to call it. Okay. And what I'm going to try now is just to get all these trunks, all these little cuttings tight against the against the trunk I prepared. I'm going to use a piece of wire for that. So I anchored the wire, and now I'm going to get the trunks nicely in position. Because it has two trunks, I have a bit of a problem, because I need to fill up the space with these cuttings, but I think it can be done, especially because these are ivy, and I intend to keep a few here free, and at the other side a few free. So first of all, I'm going to wrap these trunks around this part, then these around this, and then fill up the gaps with the remaining ones. So yeah, well, I don't think it will be very nice to look at, but I'll be back when it's done. So the cuttings are wired around the trunks, and as expected, this is going to be the biggest problem, to have something to fill up this gap, but I guess if the trees grow well, I can cut them back later, and I will have new growth emerging, and maybe I can put that here and around. So next thing and the last thing I have to do for this project now is, well, I have to fill the pot with soil, of course, but that's not really too difficult. I'm going to put two pieces of wire here, and wire these trunks together. Now, it is important that we keep in mind that this is ivy. You know, ivy, it's really a strange plant, and it will fuse, because that's what ivy does in nature. So it might take a few years, but I think it's a plant we don't use in bonsai, because it is extremely difficult to find an ivy with a acceptable trunk. So maybe the only possibility to get an ivy is to work with fusion techniques. So why not? Okay. Now the trunk is up to here, so now I have a whole lot of possibility to give this a direction, because of the wire. And now I'm going to fill the rest of the pot with soil. So this concludes the work for today on this ivy. I have a lot of cuttings now around these trunks, and the only thing I can do now is wait and hope that it will grow. I guess they will. They are well rooted, and yeah, I don't see why they won't. This is how it looks. Just two trunks waiting to become fused, and well, this is 1 year of growing now, and yeah, why not? Okay, thanks for watching, and see you next time.